Howdy howdy and welcome back to Gale FFTCG. I'm Serah, your host, and today we're doing something a little bit different. Instead of the rarity reviews that I would normally do, we're going to do a full set review for Tears of the Planet. This is going to be the emoji rating edition. Just trying something a little bit fun and new. So without further ado, here's the rules of the set review. Every card's going to get given an emoji rating. And every card's also going to get a format that I think it would shine in, because every card deserves to at least see play once in its life. Every element will be covered. I'm going to cover the limit breaks as well, but I'm going to do them separate from the actual main cards in the set, with a couple of exceptions. So, kicking things off with fire, we've got Armstrong. 2 CP, discard a fire card, choose a forward opponent controls, deal at 5k, or you can put Armstrong into the break zone, choose a forward opponent controls, deal at 7k. This card is fine. It's just going to be good in sealed or draft as like a removal, but I don't think it will be a card to really write home about. My emoji rating is a tropical fish. Next up, we have Iron Eater, 3 CP, 8k, warrior. When Iron Eater enters the field, choose a forward opponent controls. If you control 5 or more job or card name warriors, or deal it 8k. My gut instinct tells me this is pretty much only good in constructed and as a one of. My emoji rating is a fire axe. Up next, 2 CP, 5k, Avalanche member. When Avalanche member enters the field, pitch a category 7 character. If you do, choose a 4, deal at 7k. I'm going to give him a sunglasses emoji, not because he's cool, but just because he has sunglasses. This is a fine card, I guess, if you can run it in sealed or draft, but I don't foresee it being played outside of those, not even in cube. Up next is a card I do think we'll see play. We've got Ifrit, 4 CP, but if we're paying the cost to cast Ifrit, we can remove a fire backup and reduce that cost by 2. You choose 1 forward and then up to 1 other forward, deal the first one 9k and the second one 4k. I think this is really good with Magissa. Being able to hit Magissa and then cheat in a forward while also killing another forward is just really strong. I got an interesting tidbit from a friend of mine recently saying that Magissa in Greek, it means witch, so I thought a witch emoji would be perfect. And I think this will definitely shine in constructed. If you pull it in any other format, you're also really happy with that, but I think constructed is definitely where this is going to want to go. Up next, one of my favorite cards in the set, it's Ace, 6 CP, 8k, Class 0 Cadet. It costs 1 less for each fire character or Class 0 Cadet character that you control on the field, so that's really strong. At the beginning of each of your turns, if your opponent has received 5 or more points, or 5 or less points of damage, you deal them a point of damage. So this is really good for, especially if you've got like long stally kind of games, you're getting close to the win, and then you can push through for those last couple points pretty easily. Ace also has a special that you can pitch a copy, pay a fire and a generic, choose 1 forward, deal it 2k damage for each job Class 0 Cadet and or fire character you control. So this is really cool that it fits in both, and I think for that reason it definitely deserves the flame emoji, not only because you're burning your opponents, but also because it synergizes with fire very well. I think this is definitely best in constructed, but if you get it in sealed or draft or even cube, I think you're going to probably want to try and jam this in somewhere. Now, for our first legend, is Cloud, 5 CP, 9k. When it enters the field, you can choose 2 out of the 4 following. Choose a forward, deal at 8k, choose a monster and break it, choose up to 2 cards in your opponent's break zone, remove them from the game and draw a card, or play a category 7 character of cost 4 or less from your hand onto the field. I think this card is generically just really good. I don't know where it would fit. I've been trying to figure that out, but I think this card is incredible in sealed, incredible in draft, incredible in cube, and I think this has some home somewhere in constructed. I'm not quite sure where it would be. Maybe it's in honestly, I'm not quite sure, but I'm sure it will see play at some point. It's just got a lot of really good effects right out of the gate. So my emoji rating is a cloud, a sword, and 2 grand. Sice. This card is horrible. Well, I mean, not horrible. Like I've seen worse cards, but like this card is just sad to me because there are just better Sices. 1 CP, 3K, class 0 cadet. If you control 5 or more class 0 cadets, Sice gains haste. And when Sice enters the field or attacks, choose one forward opponent controls, deal it 3K. So this could be 6K. It comes in, deals 3, then attacks, deals another 3. But honestly, I don't see it. It really only works in constructive tentatively, but like I don't even know if it would shine there really. But who knows? Always happen to be proven wrong on these things. But yeah, a yawning emoji from me. Sadly, the next Class 0 Cadet is not much better. Again, name clash is such a problem for this deck because there are only specific Class 0 Cadets in the game, and that means that there are also specific ones in the card game as well. So, for this, 4CP 8K Class 0 Cadet, when it enters, choose a forward opponent controls, deal it 2K for each Class 0 Cadet you control. It's alright. See, if this had been 3CP 8K, this probably would have seen some more play, but I just think this isn't quite what we are looking for. And because of that, I'm giving an emoji rating of target and sad face. However, again, now it seems to be this trend this set that there's like good cadet, 3 bad cadets, 1 good cadet, 3 bad cadets, you know, like it's just one of those things. And there have been cadets in earlier sets that I think are just better than the ones here. Maybe they did this for a kind of draft environment, but again, I just don't think these all shine that well in draft. However, Deuce certainly will shine in constructed more than draft. I think this is very constructed playable. 3CP fire backup, class 0 cadet. EX burst, when it enters, reveal top 4, add a class 0 cadet from among them into the hand, put the rest on the bottom. This is really good, especially with the new rem that I'll touch on later. It's insanely powerful. There is so much going on with this card. I think just being able to get off to the races early, this can also hit class 0 cadet backups, which is really, really helpful. And I think that will be definitely a mainstay of this deck, is being able to hit either forwards or backups depending on what you need. This definitely is very good in my opinion. So I've given it the emoji rating of the coffee and the run. Yeah, this is a great card. Nothing more to say about it. Now this is a card that's super intriguing to me. Salamander 3, 3CP 7K. When Salamander 3 is also card name Guts Go, for whatever that matters. When Salamander 3 enters the field or attacks, you can pay 5 CP, 3 of it being fire and 2 generic, or 2 crystals. When you do so, choose up to 2 forwards and deal them 9k. This seems decent, actually, like as an effect. But I don't think you want to pay 8 CP to deal 2 things 9k. There are just better ways of dealing with things for far cheaper. That being said, I actually think that in a crystal package, maybe like a 7-wall, running the crystal backups, this could actually be very strong. I'm not quite sure where this will see play, but I think Magissa might also like this and might appreciate it. So, yeah, for that reason, I've given it the emoji rating of a witch, a heads-up card, and yeah, I think it would be very good with crystals. I think it'll see the most play in constructed, though it might be a cool board wipe in the in the kind of sealed environments as well. Up next is Security Officer. When it enters the field, select one of the 2 following actions. Choose 1 forward opponent controls, deal it 5k, or draw a card. It's fine. Might see play in cube. Definitely a good card to pick in sealed or draft. And my emoji rating is a lock. Here is a really interesting card. We've got Glenn Soldier, 8k Brave. 8 CP cost is quite high, but for that effect, we get to search for up to 2 job soldiers and add them into hand when Glenn enters, and then we can play up to 2 job soldier forwards of cost 2 or less from our hand onto the field, which is very, very potent. Being able to, like, there's a huge blowout here, obviously. If our opponent Amaterasu is on turn 1, we're kind of just left in the dust a little bit, but to be honest, I think this card is so explosive that even if you play it in the late game, you probably still have a good chance of just popping off with this, and I am a big fan of that. My emoji rating is 2 guns and a winky face. See if you can figure out what the meme is. So, we've got Palom. Nothing to write home about. You can tap, discard, choose a forward, deal at 3k. Tap or discard a card named Porum, choose 1 forward, deal at 7k. Not much more to say. It's chaff. I don't even think you would probably play it in sealed or draft, and I definitely won't be including it in my cube for sure. There's just better Paloms and Porums, I think. So yeah, my emoji rating is Gemini, and I'm melty face. However, for every lackluster card, there is an incredibly powerful and cool card, and I think Rubicante fits both of those. Look at that art, it's so pretty. So Rubicante is a 4 CP 8k Archfiend. EX Burst, when card named Golbez you control attacks, choose 1 forward, deal it 8k. And you can also pay a fire and 1 generic to name an element. During this turn, if Rubicante is dealt damage by abilities of the named element, the damage becomes 0 instead. This card is insane in Constructed, obviously, but I think this also has a home in quite a few formats. Just that second line of text is so universally good that I just don't think there's anything wrong with it. However, dealing 8k when Golbez attacks is also really strong. It's just repeatable removal, and I think that's really good, especially when this card is really hard to take off the field. So my emoji rating is Bombastic, Side Eye, Meteorite, and Death. Volker. This card is insane. I don't know what they were thinking when printing this. 7 CP, 8k Warrior. When Volker enters the field, due to your cast, so you do have to actually play it from hand, you can't cheat it in or anything, you may search for up to 2 Job Warrior and or card name Warriors, add them to hand. During this turn, the cost required to cast the next Job Warrior or card name Warrior is reduced by 3. That can become 0, so that's insanely good to know. And when a Job Warrior or card name Warrior you control is put from the field into the break zone, you choose 1 forward opponent controls and deal 4k. Sorry, 8k. That'd be so broken. 4k damage. Being able to basically play this early, go search for Tyvis, then search for something else off of Tyvis. It's just, you can deploy 3 forwards on turn 1, maybe even 4 forwards on turn 1. And that's just insane to me. I don't know what they were thinking when printing this card, not gonna lie. But yeah, it's a very good card. It's an insanely powerful card. If you get no other legends this set, get Volker. Volker is going to be good for a long time, I think. And for that reason, I give it the Mind Blown sword. And why did they print this emoji? Oh, Red 13. Every set, you keep getting more and more shafted. Don't worry, there's a little bit of redemption for you, hopefully. So, 1 CP, 3k, Warrior. If Red leaves the field, you remove Red from the game instead? Why? Why would you do that? Why would you add that line of text? This card is fine by itself. When Red 13 enters the field, choose 1 forward. It gains plus 3,000 till end of turn. You can also pay 2. Play Red onto the field. You can only use it during your main phase, and only if you control 2 or more Cat 7 forwards, and if Red 13 is in the break zone. There's so many hoops for this guy to jump through. Like, why? His emoji rating is not a dog. Maybe he'll see some play in, as a last pick in a sealed event. But the last one here in Fire is actually really exciting. I really like this card. It's Hell House, 3 CP, monster, category 7, which is very important for a little tech that I'll let you in on. Until end of turn, Hell House becomes a forward with 7k. At damage 3, when it attacks, deals 3k to all the forwards opponent controls, and if you're at damage 6, it deals 5k. It's worth noting that those stack, so in the late game, maybe you're trying to push for the last point and your opponent's super close to just knocking you out. You deal 8k, which is kind of cool. I think this is really cool, though, with 2 CP Tifa that says whenever a category 7 character deals damage to an opponent's forward, that forward can't block. So Hell House basically says your opponent's board can't block, and it's kind of hard to interact with. I kind of like that. But yeah, I think this will shine the most in Cube, Sealed, and Draft for sure. Let's move swiftly on to Ice, because we still have a ways to go. First, we have Gimme Cat. I love this card. 1 CP, Ice Monster. You can tap it, discard 1 card. Your opponent discards a card. You can only do this once per turn and only during your turn. You can also pay 1 and put Gimme Cat into the break zone. Your opponent randomly discards 1 card. Random discard is somehow more dangerous than your opponent picking what card they actually discard. So that's kind of funny to me. I like that. I think this card is especially good in Ice Earth builds that can recur it. So you play this, you pitch 1 card, your opponent discards a card, and then you also have your opponent randomly discard a card. That's kind of a 2-for-1, and then if you can get it back, you repeat it over and over. It's especially good with Biblos, being able to dual freeze things. This card's just really great, and I think it will definitely see some play. For that reason, my emoji rating is a Screaming Cat and a Joker. Necron, what are they doing with this card? It's like its face looks like a Rorschach test. Like, what do you see in this random blob of nothing? I see nothing, because this card is kind of not anything. 4 CP 8k. When Necron enters the field, choose 1 forward of cost 5 or less. Opponent controls, remove it from the game for as long as Necron is on the field. If your opponent has removal and this dies, well, tough. Your opponent gets back their thing and it probably does something horrible and nasty. You can pay 1 ice and tap to choose a card removed by Necron's ability and put it into the break zone. Again, you need to give this thing haste to do it on the turn it comes in. They're better just 5 CP removals. I don't think this card does a whole heck of a lot. Maybe it's good in Sealed, and that's about it. My emoji rating is an Easter Island head. However, as a little bit of a palate cleanser after Necron and the travesty that is the Necron card, Gapal it seems pretty decent. 5 CP 9k, so it's about average for cost. The category 10 forwards other than Gapal you control gain plus 2k, and this forward cannot be chosen by your opponent's abilities. When Gapal enters the field, choose 1 forward opponent controls, dull, and freeze it. So there's a lot of cool implications with this card. There's a few searchers that we'll talk about later that get Gapal. There is some new cards that really could stand to be protected from abilities in this set that we'll get onto as well. And yeah, so I think this card has a pretty high chance of at least being somewhat playable, if not fringe playable. So my emoji rating is a dice, crossed arms, and a shrug. Up next, it's Chimera Brain, which is a 3 CP 9k, category 10 actually, so Gapal can protect it if it becomes a forward, which, go figure, it kind of can. Until end of turn, Chimera Brain becomes a forward with 9k power, and when Chimera Brain attacks, you choose a forward opponent controls, freeze it, and you can only use this ability if your opponent has any dull forwards and only once per turn. So it's kind of interesting that it can freeze something that's potentially active, discouraging them from attacking in the next like turn. But they do have to attack with one thing first. So the best part about this, to be honest, is just the fact it's a 3 CP 9k that can activate kind of whenever. I think that's probably the most important part of this whole thing. It reminds me of like Big Gigas, the 4 CP that like couldn't activate if it attacked, but it was a 9K. This is that, but kind of better. It can be revived if your opponent manages to kill it off. That's kind of cool. With the Ice and Earth Larcaicus. Yeah, I think this card is definitely a sleeper card, and for that reason, I have given it the sleeping emoji and the ice emoji. I definitely think Sealed and Draft, though, is where it's going to shine the most. Maybe it'll find a home in Pauper Cube as well. Sam Frost. That would be super cool if Chimera Brain was in there. Another card that I'm so hyper excited to see is Edward. 3 CP Ice King, which is really important because there have been a lot of good Earth Kings. There have been some good Fire Kings. I don't think there's been any good Water Kings. I can't remember. Let me know in the comments below. But Ice has kind of always been a little bit off the radar until now. When Edward enters the field, you choose up to 2 characters opponent controls. If your opponent has 1 or less cards in hand, you dull and freeze those 2. When Edward enters the field, if your opponent has 3 or more cards, they discard a card. So that's really strong, actually. I think this card is great. It punishes your opponent if you've managed to maybe gimme cat them a couple times or force them to discard a bunch of cards. Or if it's in the early game, it starts off that discard train that Ice really needs. So this is searchable. It's great. No notes. My emoji rating is a mind blown and a crown. Up next, we've got Kurosame, 6 CP, 9K, EX Burst. It's got Warp 2 for an Ice and a generic. EX Burst, when Kurosame enters the field, you reveal the top 4 cards, and add a forward from among them into your hand. That could be of any element, so I think this card is semi-decent. I will definitely be including it in the cube. Yeah, cube, sealed, draft. I think this is a perfectly acceptable card. My emoji rating is a cool mask. Right, here's a very contentious card, and I'll probably get somebody angrily in the comments going, Zeed's really good. I don't like Zeed. Not a big fan. Not gonna lie. 5 CP 8K seems a bit underwhelming. If this was a 5 CP 9K with like back attack, that's cool. But it's a 5 CP 8K with back attack. Not as sold on that. When Zeed is dealt damage by a character opponent controls, your opponent selects 1 dull character they control and put it in the break zone. So I think this ability reads well, but then when you look at it a little deeper, it's actually just not that good. So when Zeed is dealt damage by a character opponent controls, your opponent selects 1 dull character they control and put it in the bin. Because your opponent selects, it means that if there was any dull forward that they didn't want to kill, that you didn't want to kill, then okay, cool. They lose 1 forward, sure, but they don't lose the forward you wanted them to lose. So maybe your opponent swings with a 9K. It just leaves too much in your opponent's hands, and a smart opponent will assume that if you even have 1 up and 2 or 3 cards in hand, you might be able to play Zeed, and so they'll just attack with their with a good card but a weaker card that Zeed wouldn't want to kill. I feel like it just leaves too much unknowns in your favor. Too many things have to go right for Zeed to be good. I suppose the argument could be made that his second ability of removing 3 cards from the break zone from game to gain +3 is fine, I guess. But again, I still think this is far too high a cost to pay, especially when you have cards like Sephiroth and you have back attack cards like Calbrena that do literally the same thing effectively, but for quicker. If you want Zeed to stick around, fine, but you could also play 3 CP Calbrena, back attack in. When it takes damage, it deals that much damage to another forward and kill any forward. And I think that is just does it a little bit better than what Z does. I'm happy to be proven wrong on this point. I know Mick Mole is really on this card, but for those reasons, I think that my emoji rating is fine, Joker, and we'll see. The format is sealed, draft, constructed, and cube. I do think this card is actually really, there is so much potential in this card to be good, but I don't want to be too optimistic. I think this card is just fine, and I don't think just fine, unfortunately, cuts it in a meta context. But I definitely think that somebody will get got out by this at some point. Up next, one of the cards I think is one of the best legends in this entire set. It is Serah, 4CP 8k soldier with first strike. The job soldier forwards other than Serah you control gain first strike. When a forward with first strike you control attacks, your opponent discards a card, and it's got a special, choose one forward, deal it 5k damage. The special's not much to write home about, but oh my gosh, those first abilities are insane. Having first strike, not really much to write home about. Giving other soldiers first strike, okay, that's interesting at least. Being able to make forwards with first strike discard things is insane. You could play the 2CP Lightning Roche first as your first forward, so it costs nothing, and then you play Sephiroth on turn 1 and swing with Roche, and suddenly your opponent discards a card. That's super strong. If you play this with Rug can give anything first strike, so it doesn't have to just be your soldiers with first strike that make you discard a card. It's anything with first strike. So this card just makes use of an underutilized keyword, I think, and that's also always super duper cool. So yeah, I just think this card is great. There's so many aggro ways you can take this, and there's a lot of soldiers in this. We obviously saw Glenn can search this, but there are still more soldiers in this set that got printed that are super good. My emoji rating is 2 eggplants. You know why. You know why. Don't give me that look. You know exactly why. Look at this man. Look at his haircut. Look at his twink. Yeah, he's great in all formats. If you pull him, good luck to your opponents. They'll need it. Up next, back down to some not as exciting cards, but 2CP 5k Soldier Candidate is an ice CP forward. When Soldier Candidate enters the field, you choose one character opponent controls and you duel it. And if you have a Soldier Candidate in your break zone, you also get to freeze it, and at damage 3 it gains plus 3k. This card is pretty cool, actually. I think it's best in cube, but it might work in sealed and draft if you get a couple of these. My emoji rating is cold and 7. Up next, we have Chadley, 2CP, ice backup. He's a cat 7, so I guess that maybe is relevant at some point. When a forward you control is put from the field into the break zone, you can put a research counter on Chadley. It only triggers during your opponent's turn and only once per turn. And honestly, I'm not that big a fan of this card. Originally, I was kind of hyped on it, mostly for his second ability, which I'll read here. It's an ice and 1 generic, and you can tap it and remove 3 research counters from Chadley. Choose 1 forward of cost 4 or less in your break zone and play it on the field. And you can only do this ability during your turn. It's alright. It would be alright, especially if it wasn't during your opponent's turn. But the fact that putting research counters on it is during your opponent's turn just seems really lackluster. It seems needlessly complicated for what it does, and I think unfortunately we're in the day and age where cards that are needlessly complicated or have very specific timings are just not that good. I could see this being good in draft, maybe sealed. Maybe there's an argument for it in constructed with monsters or something like that. They do have to be monsters that turn forward, so maybe even not there. But and in cube, I guess maybe this is fine in all-star. Honestly, I think as I'm looking at this card, I'm just looking at it and going, Just don't run it in any of these. You could run it in any of these, but just don't. I think there are just so many better cards you could be running over this Chadley. Up next, we've got Paladin, 3 CP, standard unit. When it enters, choose one of the following 2. Choose a forward and dull it, or draw a card. Great in sealed, great in draft, great in cube. Not much more to say. Don't play this over G Deleter. It's just not worth it. Up next, we do have Nuge, and I think this card is incredible. This is very good to play, I think. 4 CP EX Burst backup. When Nuge enters the field, you may search for one card name, Gapal or Barrel Eye, and add it to your hand. You can also tap, put Nuge into the break zone, deal 5k to all the dull forwards opponent controls. This is really good, I think, especially against like the early anti-aggro, like knights and things like that. They probably will dull freeze this, but then that means also you have cards that don't need to be dull and froze, and that's kind of important, I think. So yeah, I think this card is probably more notable for searching backups. There are Barrel Eye backups. I think there might even be Gapal backups. Let me know in the comments if there is. But there's definitely a Barrel Eye backup that got printed this set that I'm really excited about, and we'll touch on that later. My emoji rating is nerd glasses, because like, look at this guy. This guy is so cool. Maybe I should have given him the sunglasses. I don't know. And an eyeball. I think he's really good in basically any format where you can find Gapal or Barrel Eye. And I think those are easily found in constructed, sealed, draft, or cube as well. You just have to know what you're looking for. Up next, we have Matthias the Corrupt. I love this card so much. It's 4 CP, but you can remove one of your ice backups from the game to make it be only 2 CP. You choose one dull forward and up to one other forward. You break the first one and dull and freeze the second. Super potent. I think this is especially good because ice, having so many good ETBs, if you hit another backup, you probably want to actually play it sometimes. Like maybe you hit a G Deleter, or you're on 2 CP Juggler and you want to back attack it in. Being able to use this Matthias to effectively 2-for-1 something and then also have the ability to play in the Juggler whenever you want is actually pretty good, I think. So with that being said, I think this is definitely good in pretty much every format. Being able to break a thing that's attacking and then stop another thing from attacking is just really good. So my emoji rating is a bikini, a hot chili pepper, and a no. Up next, we've got Borgin, 5 CP, Captain. When Borgin enters the field, you duel forward, deal 8k damage. Your opponent discards a card. Sorry, that art is so disconcerting, it just like broke my train of thought entirely. You can also pay 1 and tap to put Borgin in the break zone and choose a duel forward, deal at 8k. This card is actually pretty good in sealed, draft, and cube, but as you can see from the emoji rating, what is that art, man? Like, it's so gross. Like, that guy is gonna do things. Like, he's gonna commit atrocities. Yeah, I think this card will go in the cube, but I loathe them to admit it. Up next, another card that will definitely be going in the common cube, but I think belongs in every format. It's Maynard. 5 CP 8k. At the end of each of your turns, choose one monster put in your break zone from the field during that turn, and you play it back to the field. So this is just recycling over and over. It's so cool that you can get back your blue worms to draw extra cards. Gimme Cat finally comes back. This card is just really strong, I think. I think it has a lot of utility, and I think there are so many possibilities with this card. I can't just mention them all in this video. It will definitely be in my cube. My emoji rating is monster and girl. Here's one of the reasons I think Gapal is going to be such an interesting card. This Yuna, 3 CP, 7k, so it's just normal cost. But it is a Gull Wings and a Black Mage, which is kind of interesting. When Yuna enters the field, you can search for a job Gull Wings and add it to your hand. You can also pay 2 generic to play 1 Gull Wing from your hand, of cost 3 or less from your hand onto the field. and you can only do it once per turn. What is really cool about this card is that this doesn't have a once per turn and only on your turn clause. So I can cheat in cards on my opponent's turn at the end of turn. And that can just be really strong, especially as it gives like a pseudo haste type of thing. And I think that's really, really, really cool and important. I hope they don't errata that. She also has a special, which is pretty cool. So she has pitch a copy and pay an ice. Choose one forward, you get to dull and freeze it, and your opponent draws a card. 3 CP for that is actually not bad, especially if it's like a surprise factor sort of thing. So yeah, I think this card is really interesting. I've given it a consideration emoji, a witch emoji, and a cool, because I do think it is a really cool card. It'll definitely see the most play in Constructed, though. That I am definitely sure of. Len, another legend that I'm really excited for. 2 CP 5k, Summoner Songstress, Category 10. All of these things are really nice and relevant. At the beginning of attack phase, during each of your turns, you remove the top card of your library from the game. You can cast it anytime you would normally cast it on this turn specifically. So just be careful of that. But I think it's really strong. In addition, you can pay 1 and remove Len from the game. Choose one summon in your break zone, remove it from the game. And during this game, so that's for the rest of the game, you can cast it anytime you would normally cast it. I think this is a really good Storm payoff, actually. Just being 2 CP and like being able to flip cards over and then being able to also have a graveyard synergy as well. This is really cool, especially because Mist Dragon kind of hurts the wind matchup. Instead, you can do this at any time you like. It's not just during your turn that you can use this effect. You can get rid of this to protect like one extra, like the last summon that you need, or you can just go ahead and automatically cast that summon. Maybe it's an Asura to get back a Luso to finish off your opponent next turn, that sort of thing. This is great. I think it's fantastic. In basically every format you can get it in, it's extra card advantage. Do note that the card that you flip off the top does have to be cast with like normal colors and stuff, but that's totally fine in Constructed for sure. I'm going to give this one also a Mind Blown because I think this card is just so cool, and a Crown because Len is the queen. Moving swiftly on to Wind, we've got Aerith, 2 CP Wind forward, Cat 7. When Aerith enters the field, choose one character opponent controls. As long as Aerith is on the field, it loses all its abilities. When Aerith is put from the field into the break zone, you may remove Aerith from the game. When you do so, draw a card. This is alright. I think this is best in Sealed Draft and Cube, where card abilities are kind of at a minimum, and where having a Kukulane type of effect is actually really strong. I don't think in Constructed this will see any play, really. But I do think in the formats that can play it, you definitely really will want to be playing that. Stop. I'm going to give this one a stop sign and praying hands for my emoji rating. Up next is King. This card is just really sad. 5 CP 9k Class 0 Cadet. When it enters the field, you choose one forward opponent controls. You bounce it. If you control 5 or more Job Class 0 Cadet, put it at the bottom of the of its opponent's deck instead. It's kind of strange. It is owner's deck, I guess, but it's just don't waste your time like on this card. I'm giving it crying emojis because our boy King can just never catch a break. However, a card that has so many good versions, but I still think this one is the crowning achievement. It is Queen. 3 CP 7k Class 0 Cadet. You can choose up to 2 Class 0 Cadet backups and just activate them. You can only use it during your turn and only once per turn, but that's still a lot. Being able to activate 2 Class 0 backups is nothing to sneeze at. You can also pay a Wind and 1 Choose up to 2 cards in your opponent's break zone and remove them from the game. This is insanely powerful, especially for Wind. Wind doesn't have a lot of instant speed interaction with the break zone, and I think this is just great that Queen got this. So for my emoji rating, I'm giving it double Wind. This is just a great card. And I think it's good in just about every format you can play it in, as long as you are able to get 2 backups for Class 0. This is great in Sealed, great in Draft. In Cube, if it's an archetype that's built into the Cube, Queen is going to be really strong. Constructed, same thing. Especially in Constructed, I think Queen is really going to shine, though. Goobu! I love this card. It's not a good card, but I just love the art. Look, he wants to give you a hug. You can tap Gobu and discard a Wind card, choose a forward. It can't be chosen by opponent's abilities. You can pay 1 and put Gobu into the break zone, choose 1 forward opponent control, or that you control, sorry, and this card cannot be chosen by your opponent's summons. I think this card is actually really good in Sealed, Draft, and Cube. I will probably see some play in my Commons Only Cube. But I think beyond that, there isn't much more to say. It's protection. It's cool. I love the art. I think it's going to be a very adorable art. But yeah, my emoji rating is a screaming face. Maybe it should have been a hug. Up next, we do have Cater, and I really, really, really like this card. 2 CP EX Burst, Class 0 Cadet. When Cater enters the field, if you control 2 or more Job Class 0 Cadets, you get to draw a card. 2 CP 5k is a roundabout on curve, and getting to draw a card in any deck is just generally quite good. Cater does counter Self, which is also really nice. So if you, in Sealed or Draft or Cube, manage to have just 1 Class 0 Cadet, that includes forwards or backups. You can play that and then also have Cater and draw cards, and it's all good. My emoji rating is a 2 and a Joker. Up next, we have Chocobo Chick 7. Much like the other summons in this kind of heroic cycle, you can remove a Wind backup to reduce it by 2. It's kind of interesting that it's a 3 cost, so this effectively becomes a 1 cost, which is actually really strong. Deal 2 damage to all the forward's opponent controls, then you may play 1 forward of cost 2 or less from your hand onto the field. I'm sure that this is not going to be obnoxious with, Firewind Zidane or something stupid like that, where my opponent tricks it in, steals a card out of my hand. But yeah, I'm really excited to see this card. There's a lot of versatility. Because it's not necessarily element locked for what you deploy, that's kind of really cool, and I think that's really great. Up next, Thief. This card is horrible. No bones about it. When it enters, choose one of the 2 following. Choose 1 forward. This forward cannot be blocked by a forward of cost 4 or more. Really? That's it? Or draw a card. If you are unfortunate enough to be stuck with it in Sealed or Draft, just draw a card. Do yourself a favor. My emoji rating is double the facepalm. However, in Sealed, Draft, and Cube, I think Zidane is a much better card to play. When Zidane enters the field, your opponent reveals their hand. You select a card from their hand. If you do, your opponent discards it and draws a card. That's really good in any draft format, especially singleton draft formats where you only have 1 copy of a card. Well, okay, cool. That one goes away, and then you draw a card. I think that's just fine. You can also tap 3 and put Zidane in the break zone. Choose up to 3 cards in your opponent's break zone, remove them from the game. A lot of break zone interaction this set, which is really nice in the Cube environment for Wind, but I don't think this will see any constructive play. The main reason being that there are just too many Zidanes, and for that reason, I'm giving it the emoji rating of 2 and many. Up next, we do have Sid Highwind, and honestly, Sid Highwind is awesome! I love this card so much. 5 CP 7k. When it enters the field, you can search for 2 Category 7 characters, or forwards, and add them to your hand. This is just really strong. There's a lot of good Category 7 forwards. This is probably one of the more versatile cards printed this set, I would argue. At damage 5 as well, you can put Sid Highwind into the break zone, and you can play a Category 7 forward of cost 5 or less from your hand onto the field. Maybe this is the perfect card for Cloud, who knows? But I think this card is just genuinely really strong. My emoji rating is a helicopter and a 7. Next is Theodore. This card is actually one I'm kind of interested in seeing how it does. 5CP 9K is actually nothing to sneeze at. That's about average for its cost. It has Warp 2 and Wind and 1 generic. For that warp cost, Theodore can't be broken by opposing abilities that don't deal damage. That's not bad, especially with straight up breaking things being a little more common these days. Maybe that's not so true with the new cards, but we'll see. And when Theodore enters the field, you choose one card with Warp in your break zone and add it to hand. I think this effect being able to either come into play by just casting it normally or just warping it, pitching some of your warp cards, and then getting them back later is actually not the worst. Yeah, it's actually not the worst kind of ability. It definitely... I think it will at least see some play in Cube, but it might also see some constructed play. So, yeah, keep an eye out on this one, I think. I think every card that we get that has Warp will help the archetype even more. I think that 5CP Tidus from last set was kind of interesting. The Wind one that gives all your Warp stuff haste. I think that's kind of interesting. So, maybe this Theodore has a home there. Chocobos! We love Chocobos so much. 1CP, 3K, Wind forward. Chocobo can form a party with forwards of any element. When Chocobo forming a party is put from the field into the break zone, you can search for one card name Chocobo character of cost 2 or less and play it onto the field. This card to me reads like it's an old Bart's Boko card. I don't think this card is going to necessarily be good, but I'm going to try it out in Bart's Boko because I think it's funny. It'll be fun in Cube. It might be fun in Constructed if there's a Chocobo deck running around. I know some people were talking about that with the new Light Yuna. That we'll get to in a bit. But my emoji rating is a smiley face and a chicken. This card just makes me happy. Ooh, here's another Class 0 Cadet. Some of my friends are really high on this card. They really like this card. But 9 being a 2CP Class 0 Cadet isn't actually all that bad, I don't think. I do agree with them on that point. I'm starting to come around, but there's still a couple of misgivings I have about it. 1, and tap to choose one attacking Class 0 Cadet forward. Until end of turn, it gains plus 1k power and first strike. I don't hate this card. I really don't. But I don't love it either. And I think that's half the battle with a lot of these cards is do I run this 9 because it's a Class 0 backup? Probably. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the more your opponent can interact with your Class 0s, the better. But also, do I want to run it as a 3 of because I want to draw into it? Or do I want to play other cards named 9? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But, dude, that haircut is great. So for that emoji, I'm giving him 2 punk. Up next, Barbaricia. This card is insanely good. 3CP 7K Wind Fiend with an EX Burst, which is always great. When Barbaricia enters the field, you choose one job Archfiend other than Barbaricia in your break zone, add it to hand. Recursion is always a good thing. When Barbaricia enters the field, if you control a card named Golbez, deal 3k to all damage to all the forwards opponent controls. This is really kind of cool in concert with Rubicante. Being able to deal upwards of 11k to something is really super, super fun. But yeah, also that art is it's just gorgeous. So yeah, I'm going to give this one a graveyard hot emoji and demon. I think this is definitely going to shine the most in Constructed. Up next, a sealed draft cube all-star. It's Mandragoras. The Mandragoras specifically. 1 CP monster, category 12, I guess, is kind of relevant for something, I'm sure. Pay 1 wind and 2 generic. Until end of turn, the Mandragoras also become a forward with 5k. When the Mandragoras deals damage to a forward, you break it, and when it's put from the field into the break zone, choose a forward opponent controls and break it. So this is kind of fun, I guess, with a synergy of Witch of the Fens. That's it. Yeah, with like Witch of the Fens, so you sack this and kill all 2 things effectively with the Witch of the Fens. It's kind of fun, but to be honest, I think it'll be best in sealed and draft, especially. It's just such a hard thing for your opponent to block or justify attacking into when they know you have it, so I think this is okay. Up next, we have Yuffie. 2CP Ninja, it's a 4K that has haste. When it attacks, place 1 Shuriken counter on Yuffie. When Yuffie is blocked, deal 4K for each Shuriken counter placed on Yuffie to the blocking forward. That's so weird. Then remove all Shuriken counters from Yuffie. Basically, when this attacks, you put a Shuriken counter on Yuffie. If your opponent blocks, you deal 4 for each of those, and then you remove all 4 Shuriken counters, or all of your Shuriken counters from Yuffie. So it's I think it's really good for a common, actually. Some people are rating it for constructed. I'm not quite sure where I stand on that, but card's got haste, it's 2 CP, it's really simple, it's got searchers. I think this card is going to definitely see some play, at least in Sealed, Draft, and Cubed. My emoji rating is Wind and a Ninja. Lucia is up next, and I love Lucia. I think this card is great. 2 CP, 5K Soldier. That's important. Remember Glenn? This is one of the cards that we can deploy with that. So at the beginning or end of your turns, activate all the job soldier you control. That is just really strong on its own. It kind of gives Pseudo Brave, but it's even stronger in concert with her other ability to duel 3 active job soldiers. You get to draw a card, and you can only do this ability during your turn. So if you have multiple ways of reactivating all these, maybe you're playing the 5 CP Wind Yuffie, where you go ahead, you attack with it and get to activate everything. On the stack, you duel 3 to draw a card with Lucia, and then all those untap, and then you go ahead and like attack with the other ones, and then at the end of turn, Lucia activates all your soldiers. That's totally a thing that could happen. I think this card is just super great, and for that reason, I have given it the gun emoji and the up emoji because it's activating all our things. I think it's going to be great in Cube and Constructed, where you can go hard into soldiers. And last, but certainly not least, one of my favorite cards this set as well, it's Rem. When Rem enters the field, you can pay X, and when you do so, you get to search for 1 Class 0 cadet of cost 10, or cost X, sorry, other than Rem and play it onto the field. You can also tap, put Rem in the break zone, and activate all job cadet, Class 0 cadets you control. 3 CP 7K. This is awesome because you can search backups or forwards. So I think the best thing that you can do is play Rem, pay the cost, play out your deuce onto the back, and then you automatically have fire and fire CP, and you get that back in your hand. My emoji rating is eyeballs, fingers crossed, and a hand, because you definitely hope that you get this in your opener. Up next, we've got Earth. Earth has been eaten real good this set. And to prove that, we're going to start off with Monk support. I have loved Monks basically since it was a real thing. Some of my greatest success was with Monks. I love this card so much. 2 CP 5K Ursula. So it is a bit of a name clash, but it is a princess and a monk, so searchable on a number of accounts. When Ursula enters the fields by summons or abilities, something monks can do quite frequently, you may search for 1 job monk or card name monk and add it into your hand. Super good. Super, super good. When Ursula attacks, you choose up to 1 forward opponent controls. Ursula and the chosen forward deal damage equal to their respective power to each other. So it's effectively a fight effect, and that's very, very strong, I think. Especially if you're in Earth and you can buff Ursula. I think it's just pretty strong. Definitely at its height in Constructed and in Cube, where the name clash or in Cube, where the name Clash probably isn't as relevant, and in Constructed, where some of the newer Earth cards kind of support her strategy and what she kind of wants to do. My emoji rating is a monkey and a fist. Up next, we have Atomos, another one of the remove one of your backups of the same element to reduce it by 2. Atomos says choose one forward, deal it 1k for each card in your break zone. For 1 CP, that's actually really not that bad, especially in like a sealed or draft or cube environment. But I think in Constructed, because your opponent can sort of, hate out, like you put this on the stack, your opponent can like remove your bin and then it like effectively does nothing. I don't think I'm a big fan of this card. I want to be a fan of this card, but in a world where Mist Dragon could be a thing, and you're not just removing like 2 or 3 cards, but all of the cards, I just don't think this card is that great for Constructed. At least not compared to some of these other ones. But my emoji rating is a screaming face and a castle. Up next, we have Vincent, 2 CP, 5k, category 7, has first strike, so that's kind of funny. It kind of triggers off of Sephiroth if you are a Sephiroth enjoyer in sealed or draft or cube. When Vincent attacks, Vincent gains plus 4k until end of turn, so he's a 2 CP 9k potentially, and that's actually really strong. You can also pay 2 earth and 5 generic to choose 1 forward and deal it damage equal to Vincent's power. I really like that. Actually, it's fun as a common. I think it will probably go in my cube. Kind of runs side by side with Yuffie. So, yeah, it's all right. Up next, we have Were-Rat. Bartz is now Job Rat, folks. We've done it. We've really pushed the boundaries of what Bartz can be now. 1 CP Were-Rat. Tap, discard an earth card, and choose a forward. It gains plus 1k until end of turn. You can also pay 1, put Were-Rat into the break zone, choose a forward. It gains plus 2k till end of turn. Nothing more to say here. I don't think this will see much play. Unfortunately, this will be like the RAM of monsters this set. My emoji rating is 2 rats. However, this wall is a infinitely better card for so many reasons. 3 CP 8k, that's above average. It's also a Warrior of Light and a Monk and Job Mobius, which is important for later down this video. Remove 3 cards in your break zone from the game. You can choose 1 forward you control, 1 earth forward you control, dull it, and it can't be broken until end of turn. You can also pitch a copy of Wall and pay 1 earth CP. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. Add up to 2 cards other than card name Wall from among them into your hand and put the rest of the cards in the break zone. This is just really cool. It's just extra card advantage. You swap out 1 Wall into 2 cards, and that's really strong. For him, my emoji rating is a gorilla, a punch, and look at all that muscle. I think he'll definitely be amazing in monks, and probably pretty good in cube as well. Cutter, 3 CP monster. It's category 7. When it enters the field, you may pay XX, meaning that you basically can choose. You pay 1, 1 and then 1 separately. So basically, you can pay 2 and then 2 to do a thing. When you do so, choose X dull forwards and break them. So what you would do is you would go pay X. Okay, I'm choosing that many guys. So for example, my opponent has 2 dull forwards. I pay X to choose those, and then I also pay an additional 1 of that X. So I choose 2 guys, and then I pay 1 for each of those guys, basically, is what it's saying. You can pay 1, and until the end of turn, Cutter also becomes a forward with 8k power. It's all right. I think it's especially good in cube, sealed, and draft, for sure. My emoji rating is 2 hacksaws. Up next is Black Belt, and I think this is probably the best out of all of the cycle of backups that let you choose one of the two following. For this one, you choose one dull forward with power 7k or less and break it. You're not dealing damage, you're just straight up breaking it. That's good. I think that's really strong. Or you can draw a card. The only thing I wish was that it was a monk. And for those reasons, I've given it the emoji rating of facepalm. It's not. And monkey. Sad times. But I think it's really great for Seal Draft and Cube. Kate Sith. I think this card is also good in all the formats, but I really like this one. 3 CP. When Kate Sith enters the field, you can play one character of cost 2 or less from your hand onto the field, and you can also pay 1 and crack Kate Sith to choose a Category 7 character in your break zone and add to hand. The fact this can be searched off of Vincent is just insane. Being able to go ahead, or not Vincent, sorry, off of Reeve, and being basically having a new backup engine in Lightning and Earth is very strong. Big fan of it. My emoji rating is off on this one, I've just realized. But you know what? It's fine. I would give it an absolute megaphone. 3 megaphones, in fact. It's just a great card, and I think it is very powerful. General. What is this card? I'll read it, and you can decide if you think it's playable or not. I'm not a big fan. 5 CP EX Burst. 5 CP 9k Warrior is not bad, actually, but it's not deployable, so I'm not as high on it. Brave, when General leaves the field, choose one job warrior or card name warrior other than card name General in your break zone and add it to hand. General cannot be chosen by your opponent's summons. If General is dealt damage by your opponent's summons, the damage becomes 0 instead. It's kind of a strange one, those last 2 lines, but I think this being able to recur like a warrior is kind of okay, or at least semi-important, especially off of an EX burst. My emoji rating is look at me, I am the captain now. I think this is fine in Constructed and Cube. Like, I don't think it will see much play in Constructed, but somebody's out there is going to do that. Hello, James McNulty. Maybe you'll enjoy this card. Scarmiglione. I think... No, this isn't the last of the Archfiends, but super cool Archfiend. I love this Archfiend. 1 CP, back attack, 3k. When Scarmiglione enters the field, choose one forward. During this turn, the next damage dealt to is reduced by 2k, and if it's Golbez, it also gains it can't be chosen by your opponent's summons or abilities till end of turn. This is the sort of thing that Golbez needs to stick around, and I absolutely think this was a great card to print when buffing that archetype. I think this card is definitely a protection spell to keep an eye out for. My emoji rating is Muscle Octopus, and I think this will definitely see a home in Constructed. Up next, one I think will also see a home in Constructed and Cube as well. We've got Sophie, 4 CP, 7k, Earthshaker, and Mobius. When Sophie enters the field, choose one of 2 following actions. Play 1 category Mobius forward of cost 3 or less from your hand onto the field. Search for up to 2 card named Sophie and add them to your hand. You also have Thor's Hammer, which is a funny name for a special, but you can pitch a copy of Sophie and dull Sophie. Choose one forward, deal it 3k for each backup you control. I think this card is, yeah, especially good in Cube. I'll be running it in my Commons only Cube, having like a Sophie style deck or like a Mobius style deck. And yeah, I think in Constructed there could be something to this. I'm not quite sure, but yeah. With that rating, I will definitely with all that being said, I will just give it the emoji rating of flex and maybe. We have another soldier candidate, 2 CP, 5k, and Brave. This is kind of the payoff, actually. I think that soldier candidates really wanted. So if you can get this and, well, maybe other copies of it, or the ice one that we saw earlier, go straight ahead. This is awesome, for sure. If you have a card named Soldier Candidate in your break zone, Soldier Candidate gains plus 2k. When soldier candidate attacks, all the card name soldier candidate forwards you control gain plus 1k. So I think the fact that this buffs everything is like a cool payoff for that archetype, especially in sealed draft and cube. I think, yeah, any of these standard unit archetypes that buff each other are just going to be pretty good. So yeah, my emoji rating is a hammer. Up next, we have Dine, 5 CP, 9k, category 7. When it enters the field, choose one forward opponent controls. If you control 5 or more backups, Dine and the chosen forward deal damage equal to their respective power to each other. Damage 3, Dine gains plus 1k. Nah. I just don't see it. Like, it's fine, I guess, but you do need to hit 5 backups. It's very conditional fight effects. We have better ones for cheaper. And yeah, you kind of have to, if you're going to play this and construct it, like, if you're going to play this, you have to play it in a deck that has a good enough engine to get to 5. So I think this really only sticks out in constructed. Maybe it has a home in draft, I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments what you think. But I've given it the cool paint palette emoji bad card. Sad times. However, we do have another good 7 card, and it's Tifa, 4CP 8k Avalanche Operative. At the beginning of attack phase during each of your turns, choose one forward opponent controls, deal it 3k for each category 7 character that has entered your field this turn. When Tifa attacks all the category 7 characters you control, gain plus 2k. I think this card's actually pretty good. I actually really like it with the Birthing Cloud deck, which is kind of funny. But I also think it's really good with the 6CP Barret that we'll see here in a little while. There's just, yeah, I think there's dude spam for Avalanche Operatives has been a thing for a while. I think this is perfectly fine. For me, my emoji rating is muscles and love hearts because we do love Tifa. Oh, speak of which, we've got 6CP Barret right here. 6CP 9k, this is one of the legends for Earth, and I am super stoked for this one. It's an Avalanche Operative that has Brave. When it enters the field, you can search for one card named Marlene or job Avalanche of cost 4 less and play it on the field. We have the Marlene EX backup that gets us a Cloud, a Barret, or a Tifa, I think. And we have this new Tifa, which is very strong. At the beginning of attack phase during each of your turns, choose one forward opponent controls. If you control 7 or more category 7 characters, deal it 9k. This is pretty easy to get up to. It's in some ways it almost seems like too fair to put the 7 cost restriction on it, or like the 7 forwards restriction, characters restriction, sorry. But I also don't hate it. Like, I think it's possible to get up to that number pretty quickly in category 7. So my emoji rating is a gun, a dad, and muscles. I think this is especially good in constructed and in cube, where these sort of things are build-arounds rather than getting it in draft. If you can get it in draft and pull off Barret and Tifa and whatever else crazy, like, go for it. But that's a lot to ask, I think. Now, one of my favorite cards in this set, arguably maybe my favorite card in the set. I just keep seeing this card and going, oh my gosh, that's so good. 3CP, 7k, it's Riku. And Riku has 2 jobs that are really interesting. Having Gull Wings means it synergizes with Yuna, and having Warrior means it synergizes with Tyvis and Volker. When Riku enters the field, you may play one backup of cost 3 or less from your hand onto the field. This is insane. I think this is especially good in like Mono Fire, where you can play Tyvis to search Riku, deploy Riku, and then play a fire backup. You can run towards Montleone so much faster with this card, and I really love that. The other thing is when a backup enters your field, until end of turn, all category 10 forwards you control gain plus 2k and Brave. So you could actually trick this in on your opponent's turn to play a backup to buff your board over the threshold of like a board wipe or something like that. And I think that's also just insanely cool. So yeah, Riku is awesome. I think it's maybe one of the best heroes that's been printed in a good while, and I'm super excited for it to see play. So my emoji rating is a dancing queen and a sword. I think it's good in just every format because it's a 3 or less backup. A forward that deploys a backup doesn't seem like a very bad thing to me. And we've got Luca, 3 CP, Earth backup. When it enters, check the top 5, reveal top 5, add 1 character of cost 2 or less from among them into your hand, and return the other cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. This is pretty good. It's just an Earth version of the Afmao. You can also tap her to choose a forward of cost 2 or less and gain plus 1k until end of turn. It just does a bunch of things with 2 costs, so my emoji rating is 222. I think it's good in just about every format that it can be found in, but especially good in sealed and draft. Moving into Lightning. I've clearly forgot to do all of mine, but it's too late, and I am just trying to get these videos, just trying to get to the end of this sort of thing. There's a reason that I usually only pick a couple, but let me know in the comments if you're enjoying this, and I will do it for the sets going forward. Next up, we've got 1 CP Vargitopolis. Say that 10 times fast. Pay 1, discard a lightning card, or tap, discard a lightning card, choose 1 forward, deal it 1k damage, and dull it. You can pay 1, choose and put it in the break zone, choose a forward, deal it 1k, and dull it. It's alright. Sealed and draft fodder, nothing more. My emoji rating is Demon Spaghetti. 8 is very strong. I really like this card. 3 CP, Class 0 Cadet. Haste, when 8 deals damage to your opponent, choose 1 Class 0 Cadet in your break zone, add it to hand. At damage 3, he becomes an 8k instead. This is super great on turn 1 if you're playing your Class 0, if you're playing Class 0 on turn 1, you can play 8, deal a point of damage, then get something back, and it's effectively a 2 CP forward. That's kind of cool. I think this card is great. I think it's good if you've managed to pull some stuff in sealed and draft. I think it's incredible and constructed in cube, but I think it has a home in just about every format. My emoji rating is wind and a gravestone. Scorpion Sentinel, 1 CP 7k. I think this card is insane. When a forward opponent controls attacks, choose 1 forward opponent controls, dull it. Until end of turn, Scorpion Sentinel also becomes a forward with 7k. This is so strong. When a forward opponent controls attacks, choose 1 forward opponent controls and dull it. That's nuts to me. It does automatically become a forward, so it means your opponent can kind of snipe it after that happens. But this could really save you, especially in a scenario where your opponent, just needs to deal those last 2 points of damage in constructive, or that last 1 point of damage or whatever, and they have 2 forwards and you're like, oh, I'm out of blockers. Well, now you're not out of blockers. You have dulled one of their things, and you can also block with this guy. So that's really cool. My emoji rating is stop, look, and listen. I definitely think sealed, draft, and cube are its homes. 2 CP Kuja makes me so sad. So backup, you can pay 1. Pay 1 and dull, put Kuja and a forward into the break zone, choose a forward and break it. It's such a weird effect. In Magical Christmas Land, you could sack your own lightning maybe to play another water lightning, and all that. But it's not that great. So the emoji rating is sad face, bad face, and that art, though, is kind of hot. Now we're on to another legend, and I really do love this legend. I think it's such a potent legend. It's Zack, 4 CP 8k soldier, which is, remember Glenn, remember Lucia. These are really good cards. If you can, and remember Sephiroth, obviously. If you control 3 or more category 7 forwards, Zack gains haste. When Zack attacks, choose one category 7 character of cost 2 or less in your break zone, play it on the field. That means we can play out Lucia and those sort of soldiers, which is also really strong. Zach also has a special, Rush Assault. Choose one forward, break it. You can only use this ability while Zach is attacking. Still very strong. I think this card is excellent as a legend. My emoji rating is Hugs, Graveyard, and Haste. Definitely amazing for Constructed and Cube. Amaranth. This card is sad, but, you know, we got to cover them all. So 5 CP, 9k, Fighter. When Amaranth leaves the field, we deal 5k damage to all the active forwards opponent controls. It's alright. I think it will be especially good in the Commons Only Cube that I'm playing. I don't think it'll be super good in Sealed or Draft, but if you get it, he's a body that deals some damage, so I don't see why not. My emoji rating is a Fist and a Lightning Bolt. Up next, we have Jack. 4 CP, 8k Class 0 Cadet, so that's always very good, and it's an EX burst too, so when Jack enters the field, choose one forward opponent controls, dull it. If you control 5 or more Class 0 Cadet, you break it instead. You also have a special called Deliverance, where you can tap and pitch, pay 1 lightning, and choose a forward and break it. I think this card is actually somewhat criminally underrated, I'm not gonna lie. I think this card will be just really only good in Constructed, but being able to just dull something or break something if you reach that threshold is insane. It's especially insane because in the late game, if your opponent attacks and you EX burst this, it just feels really good. You don't really need to run Odin or anything now, or at least not to the same extent, because this card adds to your Class 0 Cadet count and also can potentially break something. My emoji rating is that there's too much name clash, unfortunately, so I think this is the best Jack out of all of them. I can't imagine you running another one, but it is definitely one to look out for. Up next, we've got Elite Riot Trooper. This is also a pretty good card, I'm not going to lie. Is it? Meh, I don't know. I do not know. Now I'm like looking at my emojis and I'm like second guessing myself. It's fine. Elite Riot Trooper anyway. 3 CP, choose a forward of cost 2 or less, deal at 7k, and draw a card. I think this is pretty good. At least in terms of Sealed and Draft. In Constructed, maybe I could see it being used just because I don't necessarily... Is the way you want to play? I'm not quite sure. I'm like reading my symbols, and I get the feeling that maybe I shouldn't be playing this card. There are better cards. It's definitely probably better in Sealed, Draft, Constructed, and Cube. Up next, we've got Sync. When Sync enters the field, choose one job Class 0 Cadet forward in your break zone. If its cost is equal to or less than the number of Class 0 Cadets you control, play it on the field. That's insane. Resurrection effects for Class 0. Let's go. I think these ones that are dependent on the number that you have are actually so much better. Overall, it means that instead of you need to have 5, you can just have 2. So you get a 2 cost back. You know, like... I think these kind of effects are just better for these kind of typal effects. It does also have an effect that you can pay 2 lightning and 2 generic, put Sync into the break zone, and choose one forward, deal at 9k. It's also removal, so I think that's pretty good. My rating is a Graveyard and a Lightning Bolt. Up next, we have another amazing lightning Class 0. It's 7. 2 CP backup, which is obviously really super strong. You can dole 2 active Class 0 cadets, that's backups or forwards, to choose 1 Class 0 cadet forward, and it gains haste. That's really strong. I think this is really great, especially with Queen, so you can dole 2 backups, then activate the 2 backups again, and then maybe dole them again to get extra haste. I think that's really strong. You also have Sadistic Spikes. I just love the name of that special. You can pitch a copy and dull. Choose a forward. If its cost is equal to or less than the number of Class 0 cadets you control, break it. Again, very good sort of lines of text to see on a card, much like Senk. I think this is a great card. And my emoji rating is lightning, some haste, and muscles. Here's another soldier cadet that makes this whole thing worthwhile. I'm definitely going to say, though, this definitely goes in cube. You would not build this in constructed. I think this is only a cube card. 2 CP, 5k, lightning forward. When it's put from the field into the break zone, you may pay 1. If you do, search for a card name soldier candidate and play it onto the field. That's really good. I do think it is really good. It's definitely going to be going in my cube. My rating for it is a skull and crossbones and a grave. Oh, what have we got here? Another Gullwings? Let's go. Gullwings Black Mage. 3 CP 7k, and her name is Pain. When Pain enters the field, choose one forward of cost 3 or less that opponent controls, deal at 7k. When a forward opponent controls is put from the field to the break zone, choose a category 10 forward. It gains haste until end of turn. This is really cool, I think, because you can deploy this and then deal 7k to something on your opponent's turn, and then gives, you don't have to give that thing haste, but being able to just trick it in and then kill something is just really strong. I do like this card quite a bit. But yeah, I think it's great in just about every format that you can play it in. It's removal. It can potentially, it does give itself haste. It's any category 10 forward, so maybe you build this in some other shell, I'm not quite sure. But I think it's good in just every format that you see. So Lightning Bolt, haste, and is it just me or is it getting a little hot in here? Barrel-eye! I love this card. I think this card is sick! So Barrel-eye is a card that is a backup that when it enters the field, choose one forward in your break zone, add it to hand. You can pay 5 and tap to put Barrel-eye in the break zone and choose a forward of cost 4 or less and break it. Don't like that part, but the fact he's searchable by Nuge and gets you back something is insanely powerful. I think that's the best part about this card, and that's why I really actually rate it pretty highly in all of the formats it's in. In Sealed, Draft, and Cube, it can potentially be a breaker. In Constructed, it's a searchable backup, and that's more than enough for me. My rating is a graveyard and a punk. VV! 2 CP Black Mage. When VV enters the field, choose a forward and dull it. You can pay 1 lightning and 1 generic and tap to put VV in the break zone, deal 1 damage, choose 1 damage forward and break it. You know what? This card is actually not half bad in Sealed, Draft, or Cube. Beyond that, it's not that great. So my emoji rating is a tap and a hammer. A Dremelech the Wrath. Such a cool card. 5 CP, but by removing a backup, you can reduce it by 2, making it 3 CP. Deal 7k to all the forwards opponent controls, and a Dremelech the Wrath deals you 1 point of damage. A 7k instant speed board wipe is nothing to sneeze at. Taking a point of damage, still nothing to sneeze at. I think this is especially good into the Knights matchup. I think this completely polarizes the Knights matchup hard style, and for that, I'm very thankful. I think there's a lot of stuff going on. I have realized there that maybe it doesn't see constructed play. I'm not sure. But I have realized that I haven't changed the emojis there. For me, the emojis would be bird, dragon, bird. Up next, we do have Rude. And I actually really like Rude. 3 CP 5k, which seems a little bit off, but when Rude enters the field, we choose a job member of the Turks other than Rufus in our break zone, add it to hand, so it's not bad there. And at the beginning of the attack phase during each of your turns, choose a forward opponent controlled and dull it. So I actually really like this card. I think Rude, being able to dull something at the start of attack just means you can push more pressure. It means your opponent has to answer Rude pretty early on, but also he gains something back, so he's effectively 1 CP. I like him. I think he's pretty good. So my emoji rating is a Graveyard, a Dull, and a cool emoji, this time actually meaning cool because he is cool and he has cool sunglasses. Definitely a constructed card if I've ever seen one. And Reno. I really like Reno as well. Reno is one of the legends for Lightning, and I think it's super flippin' cool. Yeah, so Reno is a member of the Turks as well. When an active forward opponent controls becomes dull due to your summon or ability, select up to 2 of the 2 following options. You choose 1 job member of the Turks, it gains haste until end of turn. You choose 1 forward, deal it 4k. So this is kind of nuts, to be honest, because this happens every time something becomes dull. So Rude, dull a thing, but what if you have another ability that dulls another thing? You know, like it can be anything. So I think this Reno basically stacking is insane. It's a 2 CP 5k, but again, if our opponents kill it, maybe we just get Rude to get it back. Lightning has tons of recursion effects. We'll be fine. EM Flail. It's kind of funny. Sounds like a DJ or something. It's a special. Choose a forward and up to 1 other forward. Dull the former and deal the latter 5k. That's really strong, actually, because then if we dull one thing, we choose a forward, deal it 4k. So you could actually 9k something, dull another thing out. Really super cool and interesting interactions with this card. For that reason, I have given him the emoji rating of a haste and 4k. I think he's just great. Moving on to the water cards. We're coming up for the end of this video, I do promise. First off, we've got Abzu. 3 CP monster, category 7, which is sometimes relevant, I guess. The power of forwards opponent's control cannot be increased by summons or abilities. Seems a little bit lackluster, I'm not going to lie. I'm not a big fan of it. During your turn, Abzu also becomes a forward with 7,000 power, and when Abzu attacks, choose 1 forward, it loses 5k until end of turn. Again, seems pretty solid in sealed, draft, and cube. It's almost kind of like a protected forward. Kind of don't hate that, but I don't think it will see any play in constructed. My emoji rating is a monster and a ball gen because it's Don Corneo's pet. This is Abzu Shote, part of the cycle of monsters, also Corneo's pet, huh? Oh, Abzu Shote. Okay. Duh. Choose 1 forward. It loses 1,000 power till end of turn. This is not worth dulling and pitching a card. Like, in no format is this worthwhile. What does maybe make this worthwhile in sealed or draft is 1, put Abzu Shote into the break zone. Choose 1 forward opponent controls. It loses all abilities till end of turn. So in sealed and draft, that's actually not half bad. I don't think I would put this in cube, because in cube, usually you can run Kukulin anyway. It's a common, so in commons only cube it matters, in pauper cube it matters, in all-star cube it matters, but Abzu Shote is not going to show up in any of those. Abzu Shote reminds me of the King Crimson album cover, and I will not be elaborating on that further. Famfrit the Darkening Cloud. Again, part of the cycle where you can remove a backup, and this is reduced by 2. I think this has some merit in water for this effect, similar to the ice reasons. Water has some cool ETBs in it that I think it wants to make use of. You can choose an auto ability triggered from a forward, put that forward into the break zone and draw a card. So it doesn't cancel it, and I'm kind of okay with that, but also really, you know, like, I guess this is some sort of counter, but I just can't see it seeing play in any deck, like in mono water at least. But it is interesting, this category 12, maybe Bash wants to run this. Bash obviously will get stronger with more 12 cards, so maybe that's worthwhile. My emoji rating is a no and a graveyard. Finally. I think this is the last of the Archfiends. Big Cagnazzo. I think this is probably maybe one of the better Cagnazzos we've had. I'm not quite sure about that. Let me know in the comments if you think so. 2 cost 5k Archfiend. When it enters the field, choose a forward opponent controls and bounce it to owner's hand. Okay, cool. Nothing to write home about. If you control Golbez, though, you put it in the break zone. Cheap removal like this, super great. I think this card is going to be insane in Constructed and in Cube, but especially in Constructed. My emoji rating is just a skull and crossbones. Oh, this card. Quattro Queen. They can never do right by her, ever. 2 CP, Queen backup. It's not even searchable. Like, tap, choose a category, walk forward. It gains plus 1k power until end of turn. My emoji rating is a queen and sad. Don't run this. If you have to run this, it's a sad time. What is not a sad time, however, is Kraken 3, 4 CP, 8k. When it enters the field, choose up to 1 backup opponent controls, remove it from the game for as long as Kraken 3 is on the field, and the cost required to cast your summons or monsters is reduced by 1. It cannot become 0. So, this card is interesting to me. I think it's got such a cool design space, and I also think it has the most volatile space of just automatically being one of... It's either the best card in a matchup or it's the worst card in a matchup, and there's not really an in-between there, I think. So either you ride the highest highs or the lowest lows, and I think that's kind of the way this card was almost intended to be. 4 CP 8k is not great. 4 CP is not a rate I'm usually very comfortable paying unless it's like also deploying a guy or does something really, really filthy. But I think Kraken being able to be a tempo swing where your opponent like plays a slow card to, or like a slower backup game, and you just steal that backup straight away, or you steal a very vital backup, like maybe you steal a Tyro or something, that can be really good. The problem is if Kraken dies, then that card comes back. So stopping ETBs, like removal is at an all-time high in this game currently, and I think that Kraken being easy to kill kind of means it's not as great. But also the height of having summons and monsters be so cheap is also really important. So it means like your blue worm is like suddenly now a 1k, or is like a 1-cost draw card and is a forward and things like that. So I think there is some merit to Kraken. I don't think it's a bad card necessarily, but I also don't think it's a good card. I think time will tell if this stays in the meta or redefines it, or maybe it brings about a whole new deck. Who knows? Either way, because of its appearance, my emoji rating is a snail, octopus, snake. Up next, we have Cloud of Darkness. Not the worst card of the set, but definitely in contention. 5 CP, 8k. When it enters the field, your opponent selects up to 2 forwards they control, then puts all the forwards opponent control other than the selected forwards into the break zone. Meh. The 6 CP one was better in Constructed. This is alright in Sealed Draft and Cube. I'll probably add it to my Cube as like a board wipe option, but it's not the greatest. Again, your opponent selecting the thing is kind of meh. But my emoji rating is a cloud and a dark moon, I guess. But yeah. Up next we have Corsair. Again, Sealed Draft and Cube, but this I think will be exceptionally powerful in these formats. 2 CP 3k. When Corsair enters the field, choose 1 forward of cost 2 or less opponent controls, bounce it to its owner's hand. When it enters the field from the break zone, draw a card. Kind of interesting. I'm not quite sure what I would play this with, but I'm sure there's cards out there that do a really good impression of that. So, yeah, I don't hate this card. I don't love it. I don't hate it. My emoji rating is a skull and crossbones and a boat. 3 CP White Mage. This one's a bit of a strange one, but I guess it could be okay in Sealed. Probably just in Cube, to be honest. When White Mage enters the field, select one of the 2 following actions. Choose one forward of cost 1 in your break zone, add it to hand, or draw a card. I think this would have been good in Bart's Boko back in the day. I don't think it's good now. Just play the 3 CP Corsair from last set. Now, here is an interesting card. This card does not read well at first, but I've seen some takes that are actually so interesting that I just want to play this card now. 5 CP, 9k. It is Tidus. Category 10, when Tidus enters the field, you can bounce a backup you control to its owner's hand. If you do so until end of turn, the next cost required to cast Category 10 characters you control is reduced by 3. That can become 0, so that's kind of worthwhile. When a Tidus or a Cat 10 character enters your field, choose one forward opponent controls, it loses 4k. This is so volatile. I love how volatile this card can be, because you could maybe, I don't know, maybe you bounce Buddy back to hand, pay 1 to play Buddy again, giving 4k, dealing another 4k, and then you also play you also can go and search for a backup of some kind and play the backup, and then you can, I don't know, you kill a thing. There's just a bunch of cool loops now, and I feel like this brings back YRP. Mickmole is really excited about this card. So when Mickmole is excited about a card, most of the time, usually we share a similar taste in cards, and I think this kind of card is really cool for reviving old archetypes. So I'm going to give it an up and a gun emoji. Sealed Draft and Cube, fodder, it's Cecil. 5 CP, Paladin, 9k, it's alright. If a forward you control is dealt damage by your opponent's abilities, reduce the damage by 2k instead. I actually think this has a lot of merit to it. I actually don't hate this card at all. Obviously, it's not powerful, but I think in Cube especially, yeah, it has a potential. I think any sealed or draft environment too. Like, I think this card is just fine. It's a big body that reduces damage to all your forwards. I think that's pretty good. We have Dr. Sid, a Cat 12, 4CP 8k, which I think is kind of interesting. If you can only play with water CP for Dr. Sid, but like, okay, cool. Sure, that's such a restriction nowadays. When Dr. Sid enters the field, choose a forward of cost 4 or less opponent controls. You put it at the bottom of the owner's deck. That's a pretty good removal style. I do like that almost more than like putting it in break zone, because reviving from break zone is so easy to do nowadays that bottom decking something is kind of harder to get to. When a forward opponent controls leaves the field, you get to draw a card and then discard a card. It only triggers once per turn, but that's on your turn or your opponent's turn. I think this is really actually kind of good for Lena. Just speeds up putting stuff in bin, and it's also removal. So, you know, I could be wrong about that, but I think this card is definitely a sleeper card. Maybe it also buffs Bash? I don't know, I'm not sure. Up next, we've got Broden. 3 CP, water backup. It doesn't activate during your active phase, and when Broden enters the field, you draw 2 cards. This seems kind of lame. Like, honestly, just really just kind of lame. Yeah, nothing more to say about it. My emoji is a meh face and a 2. Porum, also another meh card, unfortunately. I'm a massive fan of the twins in the game, but these cards are not doing them justice. 2 CP, pay 1, tap, discard a card, draw a card, tap, discard card name Palom, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Nah, it's not great. It's probably fine in sealed because it draws you cards, and that's not the worst thing in the world. Same with Broden, but both of these have the same sort of thing of 2 cards for crazy amounts of downside. Just not worth it in my mind. My emoji rating is the same as Palom, which is just meh. It's a Gemini and a flippin' melty face. However, this card is enough to take away all of the distaste of those bad cards. Matt, 2 CP 5k. He is a soldier, which is very important. The job soldier, or other than Matt, that you control gain. This character cannot be chosen by your opponent's abilities. That's super strong, especially for keeping Sephiroth around, keeping around Cloud, especially Birthing Cloud. I'm going to test some stuff with that. This card is just great. I love this card. I think it's a phenomenal card. You can also dull one active job soldier and choose a forward. It loses 2k until end of turn. This is really cool with Lucia, I think, as well. Like, you draw a card, then you activate, and then on your opponent's turn, your opponent has to be careful about how they attack because you just dull a thing to be, like, basically a combat trick. You could declare a block with Matt and then be like, well, I have first strike. That's cool. Cool, and now also you're going to lose, like, power and things like that, and that's kind of fun. My emoji rating is crossed arms, dull, and a gun. Maya, what is this card? What is this card? We've seen some cool Mobius stuff, but they keep printing these cards and, like, why they gotta do Maya so dirty? Like, seriously, like, the art is gorgeous on this. Why do you gotta do it so dirty? 3 CP 7k. It is a witch, I guess, which is somewhat relevant if you're, like, playing Ice Water Witches or something, like with Griever. You can go and search. But when Maya enters the field, you can remove a category Mobius card from your break zone from the game. When you do, your opponent selects a forward they control and puts it into the break zone. Again, like, opponent selects is not the greatest at the moment. Maybe if you do this early, it's a little bit nasty, but honestly, it's not that great. You can also tap, remove a category Mobius card in the break zone from the game, and during this turn, the cost required to cast your next summon is reduced by 1. Like, I just don't see it. I just don't see the vision. I don't know what the design team was doing here, but you know what? Maybe there's other cards that are coming out soon that will make that good. I don't know. But my emoji rating is hot. That art is amazing. And also, what were they thinking? I think this only sees plain constructed. If you get caught with this in sealed or draft, good luck to you. And finally, I believe for the water one, is Rosa, 4 CP EX Burst. White Mage, 5k. When Rosa enters the field, you can search for a card named Cecil or a card named Theodore, add it to hand. No, it's a card. It's an EX Burst that draws you a card. I feel like that's at least somewhat good. Maybe there's some Force synergies to be explored this set. Not sure. We'll see. Also has the special. Pitch a copy, pay water until end of turn. Rosa and the card named Theodore and Cecil you control gain. This character cannot be chosen by your opponent's summons or abilities. That's very strong. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a pretty big fan. I think this is good. Like, I don't know if it's good in sealed, draft, constructed, or cube, but I think if you want it to be, you could force it to be. And I think that in and of itself merits enough that it would shine in those. My emoji rating is a queen and a search. Light and dark cards. We're really approaching the long territory of this video now, so I'm just going to blaze through these real quick. 2 CP Fusoya is a backup that when it enters the field, you choose one forward, deal it 9k, remove the top 2 cards of your deck from the game. You can also pitch a copy of it and pay 1, tap, choose a forward, deal it 9k, remove the top 2 cards of your deck from the game. I can actually see this being cool with 4 CP X Death. So, the light and dark cards. Honestly, I'm really happy with the light and dark cards this time. It's one of those things that every now and again, like, we would get like a light and dark card that would be kind of cool. These ones are just awesome. I love these ones. So, without further ado, we'll get into it with Fusoya. Look at that guy. He sees things. He's seen so many things. 2 CP. When Fusoya enters the field, choose one forward, deal it 9k damage, remove the top 2 cards of your deck from the game. You also have a special. You can pay 1, pitch a copy, choose one forward, deal it 9k damage, remove the top 2 cards of your deck from the game. I can foresee this in an X-Death control shell. Great at stemming early aggro. also doesn't matter if you have extra copies of it because you can pitch them to the special. I think this card's actually pretty good in just about every format you can run it in. I think it's just good early removal if you need it, good late removal if you need it. And yeah, it can also be like a decent tempo play. I think this card's great. For our Dark Hero, we have Golbez, and Golbez is a limit break. He's the one exception to the rule, actually. There's only one dark card that was not a limit break, so I figured, okay, we'll just lump them all in together. So 5 CP dark card, limit break 2, 9k. You can pay 1 and X to search for 1 job Archfiend of cost X, play onto the field. You can only use this ability once per turn, but you can use that on your opponent's turn. I think it's so cool to have a centralized card in your limit break deck. It means that there's no opportunity cost to or there's no reason not to run it if you're running this deck. It means it frees up space, and it also means that your deck can't go sideways if you just don't see the one card you need. And I think in some ways, if they do this carefully, this is a good way of designing the game. I think making certain cards be build-arounds in the limit break deck is cool for making other decks that normally wouldn't work actually work, and I think that that's cool. So I hope they do that, not all the time. I don't want this to, become Yu-Gi-Oh! Where the limit break is the only thing that matters. I still think it's important to have that, but I think Golbez is a good way of building that. So my emoji rating is eyes and mind blown. Definitely a constructed card. If you get lucky enough to hit this and some Archfiends in your pre-release, more power to you. You deserve to probably win. For our light legend, we've got Yuna. The waifu tax is incredibly strong. 2 CP, 5k, and it's a Go Wings, so that's kind of important. And category 10, so also kind of important. You can dull 2 active forwards, select one of the 3 following. You can choose up to 2 forwards, dull them, choose up to 1 character, freeze it, choose 1 summon or auto ability. If your opponent doesn't pay 1, you can cancel that effect. This is super good with like dude spam decks. We ended the YYT is thinking about knights. Somebody was talking about maybe doing it with chocobos. There's a bunch of really cool ways that this Yuna could be used. So I think it's a great card. I will definitely be trying to get a hold of it. My emoji rating is hot and tap. I think it's just good in every format for sure. Next up is Vegnagun, and I think this card is really interesting. It is Mobius, so that's kind of worth knowing, and it's category 10, so there's some cool things you can do with constructed. But just if you get lucky enough to pull 2 Vegnagun in your sealed or draft, this probably won't see any play in cube. You deserve to win the whole tournament, I think. When Vegnagun is put from the field into the break zone, you may search for 1 card named Vegnagun and play it onto the field dull. So basically like recurs itself over and over. You can discard 1 dark card and activate Vegnagun and draw a card. You can only use this once per turn. And you can remove 2 copies of Vegnagun from the break zone and take them out of the game. You break all the forwards opponent controls. So this is a board wipe. It's like almost unkillable. I think this card is insanely good. Being a one-sided board wipe, that's really hard to pull off. Or like that normally is a really hard thing to pull off in this game. I think Vegnagun does it really well. For me, my emoji rating is stonks, stonks, and stonks. I just think this card is so cool. Definitely keep an eye out for it. Right, limit breaks. We're in the last little legs here. So, for limit breaks, we've got 2 CP Machina. It's a Class 0 Cadet. Go figure. Limit break 1, 4k. You can only cast Machina if you don't control any forwards. Okay, this is actually really good as a tempo play early. You just play this out straight away. It becomes buffed. For each point of damage you've received, Machina gains plus 1k power. I don't even think that's relevant. I think just being able to play out a forward at the start, just really good. It's a Class 0 Cadet, so that does kind of sometimes matter, especially for your Class 0 count. So it's only if you don't have forwards. So actually, if you play backups, like that's actually pretty okay, and you can do that. And then you play Machina, and it can enter the field and add to your count of five or more for like Jack and things like that. So that's kind of cool. My emoji rating is a sword and a 1. There can only be 1. I said the format's sealed, draft, and cube because I think it's really good, but there are also some people who are saying it's insane and constructed as well. I'm not sure about that. I think only time will tell. I'm sure I'll come back to this video and be able to look back and go, oh yeah, that card was really good, but I don't rate it as highly as some other people are. So I did say that they did my boy Red dirty. They didn't. They just printed out that one common for some reason. But Red 13 also got a limit break version. 4CP 7K is a warrior, for if that matters at all. Limit break 2 if you control 3 or more category 7 characters, or forwards, sorry. Red gains haste, first strike, and brave. And when it enters the field, all forwards you control gain plus 2k until end of turn. So this is pretty good, actually. It's like a finisher. It's got some really cool attack things. It does gain first strike, so with Sephiroth, that's kind of cool. Actually, that's really cool, because then it means you have almost a surefire, like potentially you have a surefire way of playing this and then being able to attack and then force a discard. That's kind of cool. But yeah, finally, Red 13 is getting some love. So for the emoji rating, I've picked Love Heart, not a dog. Camelot, 6CP 8K LB, limit break 2. When Camelot enters the field, choose a forward. If you control a dark forward, break it. I don't like this card. I'll just be perfectly, brutally honest. I don't like this card at all. Maybe it'll see playing cubed. Maybe it'll see it in some sealed environment where somebody pulls like a dark card or something. I just don't love this card. I think it's, yeah, just too much cost for too little of a payoff with like a perfect setup. Like, you know, like it too many hoops to jump through for not that great of an effect. Like Ice has better effects in deck. 5CP Shu Yin. Limit break 1 5k. When Shu Yin enters the field, you may discard a card. When you do so, search for a dark forward and add it to your hand. This one is better. And the reason I like this one is it's really good with Vegnagun. That's like, it's insanely good with Vegnagun, in fact. The fact that you can go and search another copy, then you can pitch it to untap to draw a card and that sort of thing. This can really get the ball rolling in a Vegnagun deck. And so for that reason, I actually really like this card. My emoji rating is eyeballs and the dark side of the moon. I think this is especially good and constructed and in cube. The YYT spoiler, it is Aerith, 5CP 4K, limit break 2. When it enters, you can search for a card named Cloud or Zack and add it to hand. You can also tap and crack it to put Aerith in the break zone. Choose an auto ability that is choosing only one category 7 forward you control and cancel its effect. This is really good, actually. I really like this card. I think it has potential in Birthing Cloud again. I think that's really cool. But also, it could be good with Zack. Like, there's so many ways you could experiment and direct this card, and the fact it's an LB is even better. So I'll give this one an eyeball and a 7. I think, I did say it's good in sealed, draft, and cube, but I think it's pretty good in just about everything. So, my bad. Now for a card that I think just shines incredibly well, especially in Wind, is LB Emperor, 3 cost 5k. Limit break 2. When one or more cards are added to your opponent's hand from the break zone, draw a card. That's really strong. And when your opponent searches for one or more cards, draw a card. This is so vital for Wind. It's pivotal to Wind's strategy, where Wind usually just kind of gets destroyed by advantage. Like, if your opponent can go faster than you, you're probably winning. If you are, if your opponent is able to search or go more consistent, they probably win. But now you can also run on par with them with cards. Searching is still very prevalent. If you play Emperor turn 1 and a backup on turn 1, you're probably going to be able to draw at least one card, maybe two cards off of your opponent in the first couple of turns. And that's, pardon me, just really great. So yeah, for that reason, I've given it 3 jokers as my emoji rating. We're almost coming up to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Serah Mobius is a 4CP 5K Princess Mobius limit break, but I don't think you care about the power as much. The effect is really good here. So limit break 2, when Serah Mobius enters the field, reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, choose one category Mobius card from among them, add it to your hand, and put the rest in the break zone. You can tap this card, and during the turn, the card required to cast your next Mobius forward is reduced by 2. This is insane. So there's a list that was running around called Shantron. I think it was equally known, but it was just basically Mobius.deck. I am sure Sean Kendrick, the player who is currently, who kind of is the progenitor of that deck, is probably very happy about this card right now. So my emoji rating for it is a bow. I think this is great in constructed and cube both. So remember how we had all that monkey support? This is a gift for the monkeys, hence the emojis. 5 CP 8K Yang, limit break 1, Brave. When Yang enters the field, you can play 1 forward of cost equal to or less than the number of job monks and or card name monk you control from your hand onto the field. I think this is why Ursula is so good as a 2-drop. Being able to come into the field, fight something, and also like do kind of her effects is really strong. The fact it's a 2 cost rather than like the 4 cost that you would classically run is pretty great. And the other thing is it can be any forward. So like even if you play Ursula into Yang and then, oh, well, I have 2 monks now. Cool, I'm also going to play, you know, I've heard people go, oh, I'll just play Firewinds Zidane on the field. And that is a totally viable thing you could do. So there's some interesting interactions with this, and I think this card is great. Next up, we have Kane, 9 CP, 8K, limit break 1, and first strike. So many cards with first strike. Huh. Wonder if you could abuse that. No, it's fine, don't worry about it. If you control 3 or more Job Dragoon and or card name Dragoon, the cost required to cast Kane is reduced by 5. So it becomes a 4 or cost 8K. That's not too bad. When Kane enters the field, choose a forward in your break zone, add it to hand. It's Dragoon support. It's not great, but it's, if you're playing Dragoons, you might as well run it, right? So I don't think it's bad. Up next, we have Sephiroth, 8K and 8 CP, lightning forward. Our first limit break 4. That's kind of crazy. When Sephiroth enters the field or attacks, dull all the forwards other than Sephiroth. So it's kind of like a board wipe in some ways. At the end of each of your turns, choose 1 dull forward other than Sephiroth and break it. That's insane, though. Being able to, like, dull your whole board. If you have a way of activating your board again, great. Pop off. Because you will basically... It kind of can win you the game on the spot. It also forces your opponent to be really conscious of how they play, because if they play super aggressive, if you play Sephiroth early, it means that they break things, or like they are forced to break something, and that's kind of really strong. You kind of being in control of what your opponent loses is just really good, and I think this will stop early aggression and really force your opponents to consider how they want to play. For my emoji rating, it's just the dull icon. Great in constructed, great in cube, especially, but I think it will see play in pretty much every draft that you can get. Graph. Why is this card a thing? It's a Mobius card, 3 CP 9K, limit break 2. When it enters the field, choose a forward you control, remove it from the game. It's like not even one of those things that, oh, well, this card comes back and then, or like when this card leaves the field, that card comes back. It just removes it immediately. The only time I could see this being good is like with Vikings or something, you know, maybe at a push. But when Graph attacks, you can also choose 1 forward opponent controls. It loses 4K till end of turn. It's all right. Like, I don't even think it's all right. I think it's just bleh. My emoji rating is, why did they make this card? And I think it's fine, Seal, Drafter, Cube, for sure. And last, but certainly not least for this video, it's Leonora. Limit Break 2, when Leonora enters the field, choose one category 4 forward in your break zone and add it to your hand. That's actually really nice. Like, it's just gets back a thing. And you can also tap it and choose one category or forward other than Leonora. During this turn, the next damage dealt to it becomes 0 instead. So it's all right. I think this card probably won't see that much play, but there's also the potential that it could. Like, I'm not quite sure. Maybe there's something cool coming down the pipeline for Category 4 that we're just not aware of yet. But yeah. Thanks for watching. You can support me over on Ko-fi by following that QR code. It means the world that you guys are showing so much love for the channel right now. Great to see so many new subscribers and cool folks. But yeah, don't forget to comment and like and do all the cool interaction things. Let me know what cards you're excited for and what decks you're looking to build. I'll be probably doing a lot of playtesting and getting super excited about the set. So looking forward to some new deck videos. Sorry this one was a bit late today. I'm still aiming to get things out every Saturday, but this was obviously a little bit of a longer video. But yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great day and a great rest of your week.